There's something you need to hear. And it might shatter the way you see yourself. You were never unreadable, not to the people who truly mattered, not to the ones who were actually paying attention. They noticed how your voice shifted when you lied, how your laugh got too loud when you felt invisible, how you filled silences just to avoid being seen in stillness, because stillness made you feel exposed. Someone read you once, not with words, but with attention. They saw the parts of you you've spent years trying to hide, silence, or deny. And the most tragic part? You didn't even notice. Because no one ever teaches you this. Being seen isn't loud. It's quiet. It's slow. It's surgical. The best readers don't announce what they've observed. They just don't forget. Nietzsche didn't teach us how to read people to gain power. He showed us what happens when we don't. When we fall in love with someone's performance. Or worse, our own. This isn't a video about mind tricks. It's not about body language hacks. It's about perception at the level where truth leaks through tone, through pauses, through avoidance. And by the end of this, you won't just read people. You'll realize they've been reading you all along. This is not the beginning of clarity. It's the end of hiding. Most people believe they're hard to read. They wear confidence like armor. They speak in curated certainty. They present an identity. Not because they're fake, but because they're scared to be real. Nietzsche saw through that. He said, people don't speak from truth. They speak from protection. Language wasn't built to reveal. It was built to survive, to hide, to belong. So when someone speaks, you're not hearing their soul. You're hearing their mask, explaining why it deserves acceptance. We trust words too much. But people leak in places they don't realize. In tension, in silence, in contradictions. Nietzsche didn't just study language. He studied contradiction. He said, truth doesn't lie in what's said, it hides in what's avoided. Once you see the world through that lens, it becomes transparent. The man who never stops talking, terrified of stillness. The perfectionist who controls everything, at war with her own inner chaos. The people who judge the loudest, they hate in others what they cannot face in themselves. People aren't mysteries. They're patterns. Patterns shaped by pain, childhood, fear, repeated until it becomes personality. And once you begin seeing this way, you can't go back. What once looked like arrogance, you now see as insecurity. What once felt like rejection, you now understand as self-protection. What once hurt, now simply makes sense. You don't need a psychology degree to read people. You just have to stop believing what they say, and start watching what they show. Nietzsche was right. People aren't hiding from you. They're hiding from themselves. Every profound spirit needs a mask. That's what Nietzsche said. Not as poetry, but as a warning. Because once you understand this, you stop trusting the surface. Smiles, laughter, warmth. They're not always truth. Sometimes, they're survival. From childhood, we learn. Cry too loud, you're too sensitive. Ask too many questions, you're too difficult. Shine too brightly, you're too full of yourself. So we adjust. We shapeshift. We become acceptable. And we call it personality. But Nietzsche knew. What we call identity is often just a mask. Not a lie, but a survival strategy. The deeper someone is, the more layered their mask becomes. Because the more profound the soul, the more threatening authenticity can feel. To others and even to yourself. But masks always leak. No matter how well they're crafted. They leak through body language. Stiff shoulders, nervous hands. They leak in tone, the practiced voice, the hollow laugh. They leak in discomfort, when silence gets too loud, when topics cut too close. The truth lives in contradiction. The person who says, "I'm fine," while clenching their jaw. The one who preaches positivity but flinches at stillness. The person who says, "I don't care what people think," while checking how they're being perceived. That's not deception. That's the mask cracking. If you're sharp enough to see it, you'll realize the real person always lives beneath the performance. Raw, unfiltered, scared. When you stop believing masks, you don't just read others. You realize how many masks you've worn, too. That's where clarity begins. Reading people isn't magic. It's not intuition. It's not some rare gift. It's attention. Disciplined, focused attention. Smart people don't read because they're special. They read because they notice what others ignore. People are not random. They're repeating unfinished stories. 15 signs you've learned to see clearly. The louder the confidence, the more fragile the self. People hate in others what they refuse to see in themselves. Truth leaks in pauses, delays, sighs. Silence is louder than words. People lie to themselves before they lie to others. Every criticism is a confession of what's unresolved within. Confidence often masks guilt. Certainty is sometimes just shame in a costume. Exaggeration is insecurity with a microphone. Control freaks are not strong, they're scared. Loud morality hides silent shame. Real virtue is quiet. People don't fear pain. They fear being truly seen. Over-explaining a belief is not persuasion, it's internal doubt. The need to be remembered is the fear of being forgotten. Envy wears the face of hate. What people attack is often what they secretly want. No one speaks from logic. They speak from wounds. Childhood doesn't disappear, it replays. Personality is pain dressed up. So what do you do with this? You stop reacting to the surface. You start asking, what pain is this protecting? You stop personalizing people's behavior. You start recognizing it as pattern. You don't become cold. You become clear. Because when you understand the behavior, you no longer fear the performance. You stop being manipulated. You stop being confused. You stop taking things personally. When Nietzsche said, "People don't live as they are. They live as the version of themselves they think will be accepted," he wasn't being cynical. He was being accurate. We are surrounded by performance. Online, at work, even in the mirror. But people aren't fake. They're afraid. Afraid that if they drop the act, they'll disappear. So they post quotes about healing instead of healing. They brag because they're scared of being forgotten. They isolate because they've given up on being chosen. They talk about strength because they fear being seen as weak. They don't know they're doing it. It's not manipulation. It's survival. But here's what changes everything. Once you start noticing the mask crack, you're witnessing something sacred. That slight pause. That sudden silence. That half-finished sentence. That breath before they speak. That's not weakness. That's the soul surfacing. And when you see that, truly see it, you stop judging. You start understanding. You don't just become perceptive. You become free. Because now, you don't need to react to the mask. You can finally recognize the pain that built it. That's what Nietzsche wanted. Not to make you powerful, but to make you awake. So remember this. You were never truly hidden. They already knew who you were. You finally do.